"You think you can embarrass me in front of my colleagues," he'd hissed, slamming her against the brick wall. "You think you can tell me no?" Emma had made the mistake of declining his dinner invitation the night before. She'd been polite about it, professional even, but Marcus Whitmore wasn't used to hearing the word no. Not from waitresses, not from women he'd decided were beneath him. The foundation she'd applied was already wearing off. She added another layer, wincing as her fingers grazed the tender skin. Her roommate's voice drifted through the door, asking if she was okay, but Emma couldn't find the words to answer. What would she even say? That she was terrified? That she'd already tried going to the police 2 weeks ago, only to have them inform her that Marcus's father sat on the city council and his uncle was a district judge? The Sapphire Club was the kind of establishment that catered to two very different crowds. During the day, it operated as a legitimate upscale restaurant with white tablecloths and a wine list that made most people's eyes water. But everyone in the city knew what happened after midnight, when the velvet ropes came down and the back rooms opened up. That's when the real owners showed their faces. Emma had worked there for 8 months and had learned quickly to keep her head down and her mouth shut. The money was better than anywhere else she'd worked, and with her mother's medical bills piling up, she couldn't afford to be picky. She'd seen things, heard things, learned to become invisible when certain conversations started at certain tables. She'd also learned that Dominic Castellano owned the Sapphire Club, along with half the city. He wasn't the kind of man who advertised his presence, but everyone knew. You could feel it in the way people's voices dropped when his name was mentioned, in the careful respect shown by even the most arrogant patrons. Emma had only seen him 3 times, always from a distance. Dark hair shot through with silver at the temples, expensive suits that probably cost more than her car, and eyes that seemed to catalog everything in a single sweep of the room. He never raised his voice, never had to. Men twice his size moved when he entered a space, and not because he asked them to. Tonight, those eyes were going to see her bruises. Emma felt sick at the thought. The club was already busy when she arrived, 20 minutes early because being late would give Marcus another excuse. She ducked into the employee area, tying her apron with shaking hands. Her manager, Tony, glanced at her and froze. "Jesus Christ, Emma, what happened to your neck?" "I'm fine, just a clumsy accident." Tony's expression said he didn't believe her, but he also didn't push. Nobody pushed at the Sapphire Club unless they wanted to find themselves unemployed, or worse. "You're on Section 3 tonight. Keep your head down, understand? Mr. Castellano is here." Emma's heart sank. Of course he was. Section 3 was exactly where Marcus always sat. The universe, it seemed, had a cruel sense of humor. She made it through the first hour by sheer force of will, serving drinks and taking orders while avoiding direct eye contact with anyone. Marcus hadn't arrived yet, and she found herself praying he'd changed his mind, that maybe he'd decided to terrorize some other woman tonight. Then he walked in. Marcus Whitmore moved through the restaurant like he owned it, flanked by 4 of his usual companions, all cut from the same cloth. Expensive watches, designer stubble carefully maintained, voices carrying that particular brand of confidence that came from never facing real consequences. They took their table in her section, and Marcus's eyes found her immediately. His smile was predatory. "Well, well, there's my favorite waitress. Come here, sweetheart." Emma's feet felt like lead, but she moved forward, order pad in hand. Professional, polite, invisible. "Good evening, gentlemen. Can I start you off with drinks?" "You can start by explaining why you're wearing that ugly turtleneck," Marcus said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. His friends laughed. "What, the uniform not sexy enough for you anymore?" It was a trap. If she pulled down her collar, he'd see his handiwork and be satisfied. If she didn't, he'd keep pushing. Emma's throat felt tight, and not just from the bruising. "The uniform is fine, sir. What can I get you to drink?" Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying her with those cold blue eyes. Then he reached out and grabbed her wrist, yanking her closer. "I asked you a question." "Let go of me." Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "Or what?" His grip tightened. "You'll call the cops again? That worked out so well for you last time, didn't it?" The restaurant noise seemed to fade into background static. Emma could feel other eyes on them now, but no one intervened. No one ever did. Marcus's fingers dug into the tender inside of her wrist, and she knew there would be more bruises to hide tomorrow. I said, let go. Make me. The world tilted sideways, and for a moment Emma thought she might actually faint. The edges of her vision went dark, and her free hand instinctively went to her throat, to the collar that wasn't hiding enough. That's when the temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. Remove your hand, now. The voice came from behind Emma, low and deadly calm. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. She could feel it in the way Marcus's face went pale, in the way his friends suddenly found their water glasses fascinating. Dominic Castellano moved into her line of sight, and Emma realized she'd never actually seen him up close before. He was taller than she'd thought, with the kind of presence that made the air itself seem heavier. His suit was charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, and his expression was the coldest thing she'd ever seen. Marcus released her wrist like it had burned him. Mr. Castellano, you were just touching my employee without her consent. Dominic's gaze never left Marcus's face. In my establishment. At my table. Your table? Every table is my table. The words were spoken softly, but they hit like a physical blow. Stand up. Marcus stood, his bravado crumbling. His friends sat frozen, apparently having collectively decided that loyalty only went so far. Look, it was just a misunderstanding. She's my girlfriend. We had a little argument. She's not your girlfriend. Dominic turned to Emma for the first time, and she felt the full weight of his attention. His eyes were gray, she realized. Storm gray. Are you? Emma shook her head, not trusting her voice. You heard the lady. Dominic's hand moved to Emma's collar with surprising gentleness, and before she could protest, he'd pulled it down just enough to see the bruises. His entire body went still. Who the fuck strangled you? The question hung in the air like a blade. Emma's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She couldn't do this, couldn't say it. Marcus's family had power, connections, the kind of protection that meant he could do whatever he wanted. Speaking up would only make things worse. But Dominic was still looking at her, waiting. And in his eyes, she saw something she hadn't seen in a very long time. She saw rage. Not at her, but for her. Him. The word came out as barely a whisper, but it was enough. Dominic's jaw tightened. He looked back at Marcus with an expression that made the other man take an involuntary step backward. You put your hands around her throat. She's nobody. Just some waitress who doesn't know her place. Dominic moved faster than Emma would have thought possible for a man his size. One moment he was standing beside her. The next, his hand was wrapped around Marcus's throat, slamming him back against the wall hard enough to rattle the expensive artwork. The entire restaurant went silent. Say that again, Dominic whispered. Tell me again how she's nobody. Marcus's face was turning red, his hands clawing uselessly at Dominic's wrist. His friends remained seated, apparently having decided that survival meant staying very, very still. Can't breathe. Good. Now you know how she felt. Dominic leaned in closer. Her name is Emma. She works for me. That makes her mine to protect. And you... He paused, his grip tightening fractionally. You made her afraid to come to work. In my club. Tony appeared at Dominic's elbow, his face carefully neutral. Sir? Should I call Victor? Tell him to bring the car around back. And get me the security footage from the parking lot behind the Riverside Apartments, last night and this morning. Already have it, sir. I pulled it when I saw her neck. Emma's head snapped toward Tony, who gave her an apologetic shrug. I told you to keep your head down, kid, but I wasn't going to let this slide. Dominic released. Marcus, who crumpled to the floor, gasping. You have 10 seconds to tell me who else was there. What? There wasn't... The footage shows 4 cars. I know yours. Tell me who else. Marcus's eyes darted to his friends, and Emma saw the moment he made his calculation. Self-preservation, 1. He rattled off 7 names in rapid succession, each one making Emma's stomach sink lower. She'd known Marcus had friends in his little circle of entitled criminals, but hearing them named out loud, knowing they'd all been there, watching. They didn't do anything, Marcus added quickly. They just watched. I was the one who assaulted my employee in front of witnesses, who then came into my establishment and did it again. Dominic straightened his cuffs, his movements precise. Victor? A man had materialized from somewhere, built like a brick wall and wearing an expression that suggested he ate people like Marcus for breakfast. Boss? Take Mr. Whitmore and his friends to the warehouse. I'll be along shortly. The men at the table tried to protest, but they were already being hauled to their feet by security personnel who'd appeared from nowhere. Marcus was still gasping, his face a mixture of terror and disbelief. You can't do this. My father. Your father will receive a phone call informing him that his son has decided to take an extended trip abroad. If he's smart, he'll leave it at that. Dominic turned back to Emma, his expression softening fractionally. You're done for tonight. Tony, take her to my office. Get her some water. I have tables, Emma started, but Dominic shook his head. Not anymore. Not tonight. He paused, studying her face. When was the last time you ate something? The question was so unexpected that Emma answered honestly. Yesterday morning. Something flickered across Dominic's face, too quick to name. Tony, food as well, and someone get her roommate's number. She shouldn't be alone tonight. Then he was gone, following Victor and his cargo out through the back entrance. The restaurant slowly came back to life around Emma, the other patrons pretending they hadn't just witnessed whatever the hell that was. Tony's hand on her elbow was gentle as he guided her toward the back offices, through doors marked private that she'd never been allowed through before. Dominic's office was nothing like she'd expected. No ostentatious displays of wealth, no tacky mob movie aesthetics. Instead, it was elegant in its simplicity. Dark wood desk, leather chairs that looked comfortable rather than showy, and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the city. The only personal touch was a photograph on the desk, partially turned away, showing a dark-haired woman with kind eyes. Tony deposited her in one of the chairs and disappeared, returning minutes later with a bottle of water and a plate of food from the kitchen. Pasta carbonara, still steaming. Emma's stomach growled traitorously. Eat, Tony ordered, and there was something almost fatherly in his tone. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry. I saw the bruises when you came in. I should have done something then. It's not your fault. Maybe not, but I've worked for Mr. Castellano for 15 years, and I know one thing for certain. He doesn't let people hurt his people. You're his people now, whether you knew it or not. Emma wanted to ask what that meant, but Tony was already leaving, promising to return with her roommate's number. She was alone in the office of the most dangerous man in the city, eating pasta carbonara and trying not to think about what was happening at whatever warehouse he'd mentioned. She shouldn't care. Marcus deserved whatever he got. But the reality of what she'd set in motion was starting to sink in, and with it came a cold wave of fear. What if Marcus was right? What if his father came after her? What if... The door opened, and Dominic walked in. He'd removed his suit jacket and rolled up his sleeves, and there was something on his hands that looked suspiciously like blood. Emma's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Eat, he said, moving to the small bathroom attached to the office. She heard water running. You need to keep your strength up. What did you do? The words came out before she could stop them. Nothing you need to worry about. He emerged, hands clean, and poured himself 2 fingers of whiskey from a crystal decanter. Marcus Whitmore and his 7 friends have decided to take an extended vacation. They'll be back in a few weeks, changed men. Changed how? Changed in ways that ensure they never touch another woman without her consent. He took a sip of whiskey, his eyes never leaving her face. I know you're scared. I know you think his father will come after you. He won't. How can you be sure? Because I had a conversation with Judge Whitmore about an hour ago, showed him the security footage from your parking lot, explained that if he made any moves against you, I'd make sure that footage found its way to every news outlet in the state, along with some other information I have about the judge's financial dealings. Dominic's smile was sharp. He was very understanding. Emma set down her fork, her hands shaking. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. You work for me. That's enough. But there was something in his eyes that suggested it might be more than that. How long has he been hurting you? 3 weeks, since I turned down his first date invitation. She laughed, but it came out bitter. He didn't like being told no. Most men like him don't. Dominic sat down in the chair across from her, his posture relaxed despite everything. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I need you to be honest with me. Can you do that? Emma nodded. Do you have somewhere safe to stay tonight? My apartment. My roommate is there. Is it secure? Good locks, doorman? Anything like that? It's a walk-up in a bad neighborhood. The lock barely works. Dominic pulled out his phone, typing something quickly. Victor is going to send some people to install new locks tonight, and there'll be someone watching your building for the next few weeks, just to be safe. I can't afford... You're not paying. I am. He held up a hand when she started to protest. This isn't charity, Emma. This is me taking care of my people. You're going to learn that I take care of what's mine. There was something possessive in the way he said it that should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel something she hadn't felt in weeks. Safe. What happens now? She asked. Now, you take a few days off, paid. When you come back, you're being moved to a different section of the restaurant. My private area. You'll make twice what you're making now, and you'll never have to deal with anyone who makes you uncomfortable. That's not necessary. It is to me. Dominic leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. Let me be very clear about something. What happened tonight doesn't change anything about who you are, or what you deserve. You didn't do anything wrong. You told a man no, and he decided his ego was more important than your safety. That's on him, not you. Emma felt tears pricking at her eyes and blinked them back furiously. The police didn't care. The police answer to people with money and power. I have more of both than the Whitmores ever will. His voice softened fractionally. And unlike them, I use it to protect people instead of hurting them. Why? The question burst out of her. Why do you care? Dominic was quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. Then he reached over and turned the photograph on his desk so she could see it clearly. The dark-haired woman was beautiful, with laugh lines around her eyes and Emma's same delicate bone structure. Her name was Isabella. My sister. He paused, and Emma heard decades of grief in that silence. She worked as a waitress at a different club years ago. A man got too friendly, wouldn't take no for an answer. She tried to handle it herself because she didn't want to cause trouble. By the time she came to me for help, He stopped, jaw tight. I took care of him, but I was too late to save her from what he'd done. Emma's throat felt tight. I'm so sorry. She was 23, the same age as you. Dominic looked at her then, and Emma saw something raw in his expression. So when I see bruises around a young woman's throat in my club, I don't ask questions. I don't wait for permission. I handle it. Because maybe I can't save Isabella, but I can damn sure save you. The silence that followed felt heavy with unspoken things. Emma should have been terrified of this man, of what he'd done, of what he was clearly capable of doing. Instead, she felt understood in a way she hadn't in years. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet. You haven't heard the rest. Emma's stomach dropped. The rest? Marcus and his friends aren't the only problem. There are people in this city who see women like you as disposable, as things to be used and discarded. Dominic's expression was grim. I'm going to make you an offer, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. What kind of offer? Come work for me, not as a waitress, as my assistant. You'll learn how my businesses operate, handle scheduling, interact with clients. The pay is 4 times what you're making now, with benefits. Your mother's medical bills will be covered by my insurance. Emma's breath caught. How did you know about... I know everything about my employees, especially the ones who show up to work with bruises and don't complain. His gaze was steady. This isn't charity, and it's not because I feel sorry for you. I've been watching you for months, Emma. You're smart, you're careful, and you know how to read a room. Those are valuable skills in my world. I don't know anything about your world. You'll learn, and you'll be protected while you do it. No one will touch you. No one will threaten you, because you'll be mine. He paused, in a professional sense. The way he said it suggested that might not be the only sense, but Emma was too overwhelmed to process that right now. Can I think about it? Of course, take your time. The offer stands whenever you're ready. Dominic stood, smoothing down his shirt. Victor will drive you home. Your roommate has been informed that you're safe, and she'll be waiting for you. The new locks will be installed by morning. Emma stood as well, swaying slightly. Dominic's hand shot out, steadying her with surprising gentleness. Up close, she could smell his cologne, something expensive and subtle. His hand on her elbow was warm, his thumb brushing against the sensitive skin of her inner arm. Easy, he murmured. You've had a long night. I've had a long 3 weeks. She looked up at him, and for the first time she let herself really see him. Not as the dangerous Mafia boss who owned half the city, but as a man who'd lost his sister and carried that grief like a physical weight. A man who'd looked at her bruises and decided they mattered. Thank you, Dominic. Something shifted in his expression when she used his first name. His hand tightened fractionally on her elbow, and for a heartbeat Emma thought he might pull her closer. Instead, he released her, stepping back with visible effort. Get some rest. Victor will check in on you tomorrow. He paused at the door. And Emma, you're safe now. I promise you that. Then he was gone, leaving Emma alone in his office with her half-eaten pasta and a job offer that would change everything. The next 3 days passed in a blur. Victor did indeed check in, appearing at her door with groceries and a new phone because apparently Dominic had decided her old one wasn't secure enough. The new locks were installed exactly as promised, and Emma found herself sleeping through the night, for the first time in weeks. Her roommate, Sarah, had questions. A lot of questions. Emma answered what she could, which wasn't much. How could she explain that the most dangerous man in the city had appointed himself her protector? That she'd spent the last 72 hours thinking about his offer and realizing she was going to say yes? On the 4th day, she called the number Victor had given her. Dominic answered on the 2nd ring. Emma. Just her name, but there was something in the way he said it that made her stomach flutter. I've thought about your offer. And? I have conditions. There was a pause, and then she heard something that might have been a laugh. I'm listening. My mother's medical care is non-negotiable. If I'm doing this, she gets the best doctors, best treatment, everything. Already arranged. And I need to know exactly what I'm getting into. No surprises, no sudden revelations that I'm actually running drugs or something. My businesses are mostly legitimate. The club, several restaurants, real estate. There are gray areas, yes, but nothing that will get you arrested or put you in danger. Mostly legitimate, Emma repeated. That's not exactly reassuring. I could lie to you, tell you everything is perfectly legal and above board. Would that make you feel better? She thought about it. No, I'd rather know the truth. Good, because I don't lie to people I care about. Another pause. Do you have any other conditions? Emma took a deep breath. If I say no to something, if I'm uncomfortable with something, you have to respect that. No pressure, no manipulation. Emma. His voice dropped lower. I will never pressure you into anything. Not a task, not a situation, not... He trailed off, but the implication hung in the air between them. You have my word. Then I accept. When do I start? Tomorrow. Victor will pick you up at 9. Dress professionally, but comfortable. You'll be with me most of the day, learning the ropes. That night, Emma stood in front of her closet, trying to figure out what professionally but comfortable meant when your new boss was a Mafia Don. She finally settled on black slacks and a silk blouse, with a blazer that hid the fading bruises still visible on her wrists. Victor arrived exactly at 9, driving a sleek black car that probably cost more than Emma's annual salary. He opened the door for her without comment, his expression as neutral as always. But when she got in, there was a coffee waiting in the cup holder, made exactly how she liked it. "Thank you," she said, surprised. "Boss said you take it with cream and 2 sugars. Of course he did. Emma was starting to realize that Dominic Castellano paid attention to everything. The drive took them to a building she'd never noticed before, tucked away in the financial district. From the outside, it looked like any other office building. Inside, it was something else entirely. Marble floors, art that Emma suspected was original, and security that would make Fort Knox jealous. Dominic was waiting for her in his office on the top floor. It was twice the size of the one at the club, with windows that overlooked the entire city. He stood with his back to the door, hands in his pockets, looking out at the skyline. "Good morning," Emma said, suddenly nervous. He turned and his eyes swept over her in a way that made her very aware of every inch of her body. "Good morning. Coffee good?" "Perfect. How did you know how I'd take it?" "I pay attention." He moved to his desk, gesturing for her to join him. "First things first. You'll need a work phone, laptop, and access to my calendar. Victor has all of that set up for you. Your desk is in the outer office, but you'll spend most of your time in here with me for the first few weeks." Emma sat down in the chair he indicated, trying not to think about how close it was to his. "What exactly will I be doing?" "Everything. Managing my schedule, screening calls, sitting in on meetings. You'll be my eyes and ears, Emma. That means you'll see and hear things that don't leave this office. Can I trust you?" "Yes." "Good." He pulled up something on his computer, turning the screen so she could see. "This is my calendar for today. 3 meetings, all with people who will be very interested to meet you. The first is with my accountant. Boring but necessary. The second is with a restaurant owner who wants to buy one of my properties. The third," he paused, "the third is with Judge Whitmore." Emma's blood went cold. Marcus's father. Yes. He's here to discuss his son's future. Or rather, lack thereof. Dominic's expression was unreadable. "I want you in that meeting. Can you handle it?" Every instinct screamed at her to say no, to hide, to protect herself. But she thought about the last 3 weeks, about the fear that had become her constant companion, about the bruises that were finally starting to fade. "I can handle it." Dominic's smile was sharp and approving. "I thought you might say that." The morning passed quickly. The accountant was indeed boring, droning on about tax implications and asset protection. Emma took notes, asked intelligent questions when she could, and tried to ignore the way Dominic kept glancing at her like he was waiting for her to bolt. The restaurant owner was more interesting. Emma watched as Dominic negotiated with the skill of someone who'd been doing it his entire life, never raising his voice, but somehow getting everything he wanted. When the man left, Emma looked at Dominic with new respect. That was impressive. That was Tuesday. He checked his watch. "Judge Whitmore will be here in 10 minutes. Are you ready?" "No." "Yes." "Emma." He stood, moving around the desk until he was in front of her. "If this is too much, if you need to leave, just say the word. I can handle this alone." She looked up at him, this dangerous man who'd somehow become her protector. "I want to be there. I need to be there." "Then stay close to me. Don't speak unless I tell you to. And remember, you're safe. He can't touch you." The judge arrived exactly on time, a tall man with Marcus's same cold blue eyes, an expensive suit. He shook Dominic's hand with the careful respect of someone who knew exactly how much power the other person held. Then his eyes landed on Emma, and his face went pale. "What is she doing here?" "Ms. Emma works for me now," Dominic said smoothly, gesturing for everyone to sit. "She's my assistant, which means anything you say to me, you say in front of her." "This is highly irregular." So is your son assaulting my employees. Dominic's voice remained pleasant, but there was steel underneath. Shall we discuss that instead? The judge sank into his chair, his composure cracking. I came here to negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. Your son and his 7 friends are currently guests at a facility I own upstate. They're learning valuable lessons about respect, consent, and the consequences of their actions. You can't just kidnap. I can do whatever I want. You know that. I know that. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Dominic leaned back in his chair, completely relaxed. You could go to the police, but then I'd have to release that security footage, the one showing your son strangling Ms. Emma in a parking lot while his friends cheered him on. I imagine that would make for very interesting viewing during your re-election campaign. Judge Whitmore's jaw clenched. What do you want? I want you to understand something. Ms. Emma is under my protection now. That means if she gets a parking ticket, it disappears. If someone looks at her wrong, they answer to me. And if anyone tries to hurt her again, I won't be as merciful as I'm being today. You call this merciful? Your son is alive and relatively unharmed. Yes, Judge. This is mercy. Dominic's eyes were cold. He'll be returned to you in 3 weeks. Different. Better. Grateful to be alive. And you're going to accept him back without questions, without revenge, without any attempts to retaliate against Ms. Emma, or anyone associated with me. Are we clear? The judge looked at Emma, and she saw something flickering in his expression. Shame, maybe, or recognition of how badly his son had failed as a human being. We're clear. Good. Then we're done here. Dominic stood, making it clear the meeting was over. Oh, and Judge, that development project you've been pushing through City Council, the one that would displace about 300 families? It's dead. Consider it my fee for not destroying your entire family. The judge left without another word, his shoulders slumped. When the door closed behind him, Emma realized she'd been holding her breath. Are you okay? Dominic asked. I think so. She looked at him. Is it really over? With the Whitmores? Yes, they won't trouble you again. He moved, closer, his hand coming up to her cheek. How do you feel? Like I can breathe for the first time in weeks. Emma leaned into his touch without thinking, and felt him go very still. Thank you. Stop thanking me, he said softly. This is what I do. This is what you deserve. They stood like that for a long moment, his hand warm against her skin, his eyes searching hers. Emma knew she should step back, should maintain professional distance. Instead, she found herself leaning closer. Dominic? His phone rang, shattering the moment. He pulled back with visible reluctance, answering with a curt, What? Whatever he heard made his expression darken. When? How many? I'll be there in 20 minutes. He ended the call, already moving toward the door. I have to handle something. Victor will take you home. What's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. But there was tension in his shoulders that hadn't been there before. Stay inside tonight. Lock your doors. I'll call you later. Then he was gone, leaving Emma alone in the office with 100 questions and a growing sense of unease. It was 3 a.m. when her new phone rang. Emma bolted upright, heart pounding, and grabbed it off the nightstand. Hello? It's me. Dominic's voice sounded tired. I'm sorry to wake you. I just needed to hear your voice. Emma's heart did something complicated. What happened? The Whitmores tried something stupid. Hired some men to grab you off the street. He paused. They failed. Badly. Oh my God. You're safe. I made sure of that. But Emma, this is my life. This is what being close to me means. People will try to use you to get to me. They'll see you as a weakness. Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to be honest with you. He sighed, and she heard the sound of ice in a glass. You should know what you're getting into before this goes any further. Before what goes any further? Silence. Then, you know what? Emma's pulse quickened. Say it. I can't stop thinking about you. The words came out rough. I look at you, and I see everything I should stay away from. You're kind, you're innocent, you deserve someone safe and normal, not someone like me. What if I don't want safe and normal? Emma. You saved me, Dominic. Not just from Marcus, but from a life where I was invisible, where I didn't matter. You made me matter. She clutched the phone tighter. So don't tell me what I deserve. Let me decide that for myself. More silence. Then, I'm outside your building. Emma's breath caught. What? I'm outside. I told myself I was just checking on you, making sure the security I posted was doing their job. But that's a lie. His voice dropped lower. I'm here because I needed to be close to you. Because the thought of something happening to you makes me want to burn the whole city down. Emma was already out of bed, pulling on jeans and a sweater. I'm coming down. You shouldn't. I'm coming down. She hung up before he could protest, grabbing her keys and running down the stairs. The street was quiet, empty, except for the black car idling at the curb. Dominic was leaning against it, still in his suit despite the late hour, and even in the darkness she could see the tension in his frame. They looked at each other across the distance, and something passed between them. Recognition. Inevitability. Emma walked to him, and he pushed off the car, meeting her halfway. His hands came up to frame her face, thumb brushing over her cheekbone with heartbreaking gentleness. You should run from me, he whispered. I'm tired of running. He kissed her then, and it was everything. Desperate and gentle, and claiming all at once. His arms came around her, pulling her close, and Emma melted into him with a sigh that felt like coming home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. This is a terrible idea, he said. Probably. I can't promise you a normal life. I can't promise you safety, not completely. What I can promise is that I will protect you with everything I have. That no one will ever hurt you again. That you will always, always matter. Emma pulled back just enough to see his face. That's all I need. He kissed her again, slower this time, like he was memorizing the taste of her. When they separated, he kept his arms around her, holding her like she might disappear. Come work for me at the main office tomorrow, not as my assistant. His eyes were intense. As my partner. Partner in what? Everything. His smile was sharp. You're smart, Emma. Smarter than you give yourself credit for. I could use someone I trust to help me expand the legitimate side of my businesses. And having you close, he trailed off. I need you close. That's not very professional. Nothing about this is professional anymore. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. But I meant what I said in my office. If you say no to anything, I stop. That includes this. If you want to walk away right now, if this is too much. Emma kissed him to shut him up. When she pulled back, she was smiling. I'm not walking away. I'm done being invisible, done being afraid. I'm choosing this. I'm choosing you. The look he gave her was pure possession. Say that again. I choose you, Dominic Castellano. He kissed her like a man starving, and Emma lost herself in it. In him. When they finally broke apart, the sky was starting to lighten with the first hints of dawn. I should let you get some sleep, he said reluctantly. Or you could come upstairs. His eyes darkened. Emma, just to talk, she added quickly, feeling her face heat. We don't have to. He smiled, and it transformed his face into something almost boyish. Careful. Keep being this adorable, and I'll never let you go. Maybe that's the plan. They went upstairs together, and Dominic ended up on her worn couch with Emma curled against his side, talking about everything and nothing as the city woke up around them. He told her about Isabella, about how losing her had shaped him into the man he was today. She told him about her mother, about growing up poor and scared, and learning to be invisible. "You're not invisible anymore," he said softly, his fingers tracing patterns on her arm. "Everyone in this city is going to know your name. Know that you're mine." "Yours," Emma repeated, testing the word. "I think I like the sound of that." "Good, because I'm not letting you go." He tilted her chin up, his expression serious. "This isn't some temporary thing for me, Emma. I don't do temporary. When I commit to something, to someone, it's forever. Forever is a long time. Not long enough." He kissed her forehead. "I want you by my side. In business, in life, in everything. I want to wake up with you every morning and go to sleep with you every night. I want everyone who looks at you to know that you're protected, cherished, mine." Emma's heart was doing acrobatics. "We've known each other for less than a week. I've been watching you for 6 months. I know how you take your coffee, how you bite your lip when you're nervous, how you never complain even when you should. I know you work yourself to exhaustion for your mother, that you're kind to everyone even when they don't deserve it, that you're stronger than you think you are." His eyes held hers. "So don't tell me we don't know each other. I know exactly who you are, Emma. And I'm keeping you." She should have been scared, should have called him obsessive or crazy or dangerous. Instead, she felt tears prick her eyes. "No one's ever known me like that before. Then they were fools." He wiped away a tear with his thumb. "I see you, Emma. All of you. And I'm not going anywhere." They fell asleep like that, tangled together on her couch. And when Emma woke a few hours later, she found Dominic watching her with an expression so tender, it made her chest ache. "Hi," she whispered. "Hi yourself." He brushed her hair back from her face. "Sleep well?" "Better than I have in weeks." She stretched, then froze as she realized what time it was. "Oh God, I'm supposed to be at the office in an hour." "No rush. I own the company, remember? We can be late." He pulled her back down. "Stay here with me a little longer." So she did. The next few weeks passed in a blur of late nights and early mornings, of learning Dominic's business from the inside out, and falling harder for him with every passing day. True to his word, he gave her real responsibility, real power. She negotiated deals, managed properties, and slowly began to understand the full scope of his empire. She also learned what it meant to be Dominic Castellano's partner in more than just business. He was possessive in ways that should have been concerning, but instead made her feel cherished. He texted her throughout the day, called her every night when he was away, and whenever they were in public together, his hand was always on her back, her waist, her hand. People noticed. Of course they noticed. Whispers followed them wherever they went, speculation about the waitress who'd caught the Mafia boss's attention. But Dominic shut down any disrespect with a single look, and soon enough the whispers turned to something else. Respect. Acknowledgement. 3 months after that first night outside her apartment, Dominic took her to the Sapphire Club for dinner. It was the first time she'd been back since everything happened, and Emma felt her stomach flutter with nerves as Victor pulled up to the front entrance. "You okay?" Dominic asked, his hand finding hers. "Yeah, just weird being back here." "It's not the same place it was. You're not the same person you were." He lifted her hand to his lips. "You're mine now. Everyone knows it." The club had been transformed for the evening, the main dining room decorated with flowers and candles. Tony greeted them at the door with a smile, leading them to Dominic's private table. But as they walked through the restaurant, Emma realized something strange. Everyone she'd ever worked with was there, the entire staff dressed in their finest, standing and watching. "Dominic, what?" He turned to face her, and there was something nervous in his expression that she'd never seen before. "I told you I don't do temporary. I told you that when I commit to something, to someone, it's forever." Emma's heart started pounding. "You changed everything for me, Emma. You made me remember why I do what I do. why protecting people matters. You made me want to be better, do better. He reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. You made me believe in something I thought I'd lost when Isabella died. Hope. Dominic, let me finish. He opened the box, revealing a ring that made Emma's breath catch. Diamond and emerald, elegant and timeless. I know it's fast. I know people will talk. But I also know that I want you by my side for the rest of my life. Not as my employee, not as my assistant, as my wife. The room was silent, every eye on them. Emma felt tears streaming down her face. Marry me, Emma. Be my partner in everything. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you, cherishing you, loving you the way you deserve. She couldn't speak past the lump in her throat, so she just nodded. Dominic's smile was brilliant as he slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he was kissing her, and the room erupted in applause. When they finally broke apart, Emma saw that her entire chosen family was there. Sarah, Tony, even Victor was smiling. You planned this, she accused, but she was laughing. I've been planning it since the moment I saw you in my office with those bruises around your throat. Since I realized that I'd burn down the entire city to keep you safe. He kissed her again, softer this time. You're mine now. Officially. Officially, Emma repeated, looking at the ring on her finger. Then she looked around the restaurant, at all the people who'd witnessed her transformation from invisible waitress to cherished partner. What happened to Marcus? You never told me. Dominic's expression darkened. He and his friends learned their lessons. They're back in the city now, different men. Marcus actually donated half his trust fund to a women's shelter. Funny how 3 weeks in my facility can change someone's perspective. Emma laughed despite herself. Then she sobered. And the 8 men who tried to grab me? Missing. His smile was sharp. Permanently. She should have been horrified. Instead, she felt nothing but satisfaction. Good. That's my girl. He pulled her close. Now let's celebrate. We have a wedding to plan. As they sat down to dinner, surrounded by people who'd become family, Emma thought about how much her life had changed in just a few short months. From terrified and invisible to cherished and protected. From nobody to somebody's everything. She looked at Dominic, at this dangerous man who'd made her feel safe for the first time in her life, and realized something important. Sometimes the most unexpected love stories were the ones worth telling. Sometimes the dangerous men were the ones who saved you. And sometimes being claimed by a mafia boss was exactly what you needed. What are you thinking about? Dominic asked, his thumb tracing circles on the back of her hand. Emma smiled. About how I used to be invisible. About how you made me matter. You always mattered, Emma. I just made sure everyone else knew it too. He lifted her hand to his lips. And now they'll never forget. You're going to be Emma Castellano, my wife, my partner, my everything. You're everything, Emma echoed. I like the sound of that. Good, because I plan on spending the rest of my life proving it to you. And as the night wore on, filled with laughter and love and the promise of forever, Emma realized something else. She'd come to the Sapphire Club that first night expecting another evening of fear and humiliation. Instead, she'd found salvation, in the form of a mafia boss who'd taken one look at her bruises and decided she was worth fighting for, worth protecting, worth loving. The bruises had faded weeks ago, but the memory of that night remained. The memory of a man asking, "Who the fuck strangled you?" with murder in his eyes and protection in his heart. The memory of choosing to trust him, to let him in, to accept his offer and his love. 8 men had gone missing that night, but Emma had been found, and she was never going to be invisible again.